On this past Thursday, March 27th, Dr. Janice Fiamingo gave a lecture at Queen's University in Toronto. The lecture was entitled, "What's Equality Got to Do with It? Men's Issues and the Feminist Double Standard."
So let's reject feminist misrepresentations and double standards. Challenge them wherever we see them, whether it's the Don't Be That Guy campaign that is very popular all across the country, or the use of false statistics, or whatever. Let's stop the campaign against university men.
During that talk, she was heckled by feminists. Afterward, the first person who spoke during the question and answer period was one Adele Marcier, feminist philosophy professor at Queen's University. Remember that name, Adele Marcier. She makes a reappearance later in the story. Here's what she had to say at that lecture.
Well, I am a professor of philosophy in this university. I've been here 20 years. I am a feminist. Woo! I am the mother of 3 young men. And so I'm very concerned by the state of young men in our society. I'm the teacher to many young men in this group. And I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
In a letter to the editor of Queen's University newspaper, Andrew Howard says the following, quote, "Men should seek to work within the existing framework of moderate feminist institutions in order to advance their cause." In the comments section of that article, I posted my short list of statistics indicating that female sexual predation of men and boys was a significant issue, and one that is completely ignored by all feminist rape awareness campaigns to date. Instead, feminist rape awareness campaigns such as Don't Be That Guy prefer to paint men and boys as more likely to be predators than victims. Adele Marcier joined in by rebutting my statistics. The exchange felt a little bit like scenes from a horror movie. At first it started creepy. For a professor of philosophy, Adele certainly is incapable of framing a rational rebuttal on this particular issue. Tension ramped. Adele was certainly invested in erasing and excusing female predators. Then the horrifying climax. Let me read the final rebuttal Adele offered to my statistics detailing the high rate of female sexual predation on men and boys. This rebuttal is in response to the statistic I mentioned that approximately 90 to 95% of boys in juvenile detention facilities who are abused by staff report a female abuser. Quote, quoting Adele now, "Dear Allison, I know that statistics can be hard to interpret, but you need to learn to read before you spread misinformation into the stratosphere. You said 95% of abused boys in juvenile facilities reported being attacked, coerced by female staff. This is false. Sexual victimization is there defined as all sexual activity with faculty staff. All those naughty boys engaging in unauthorized activity with adult female and male staff. Naughty, naughty boys. This merely reflects the proportion of gay and straight males in juvenile detention centers, and the fact that even people in detention centers like to have sex, like underage boys with adult females. Yeah. To better understand the circumstances surrounding the incidents, youth were asked a series of questions related to their relationship with the faculty staff prior to sexual contact. Among victims of staff, nearly 2/3 said that staff told them about their personal life outside of work, treated them like a favorite, or better than other youth, and gave them a special gift that the staff would not have given to most other youth. Almost half said the staff member gave them pictures or wrote them letters. And nearly 1/3 said that the staff member contacted them in other ways when the staff member was not at the facility. More than 1/3 said that youth gave the staff member pictures of themselves, and more than 1/4 said youth gave the staff a special gift. You're right, Adele. This obviously is indicating a blossoming love relationship with no coercive undertones between young men, a young underage boy and an adult female. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. When the youth were asked who initiated the sexual contact, 1/3 said that facility staff always made the first move. About 20% reported that the youth always made the first move. And almost 50% said that sometimes the facility staff made the first move and sometimes the youth did. It's like a romance. It's like a beautiful romance comedy between underage boys and female staff in a detention facility. Oh, it's just beautiful, isn't it? Youth were also asked to describe the sexual relationship with staff. Nearly half said that the incident was just sexual. An estimated 40% said the sexual contact was more like friends with benefits, and 13% said that they really cared about each other. Oh, how sweet. Among the 840 youth who experienced staff misconduct without force, 5% reported the involvement of a male staff member, and the rest reported the involvement of female staff members. So for the 95% that you cite is of male youth who experienced sexual misconduct involving female staff without force. Well, that certainly makes it all okay, as long as it is without force. End quote. Hey, what can I say? Obviously, Adele and I agree that, giving these boys who are being sexually abused by female staff in detention facilities a piece of candy afterwards will make it all better. After all, the boys in detention facility can definitely give legitimate consent to their adult captors, obviously. I'll remind you now that Adele, if Professor Adele Marcier wrote this rape apologia on an article arguing that men and boys can only legitimately talk about their issues in a feminist context, I'll remind you that Adele is a feminist professor of philosophy at the University of Queens. Now, the problem with asserting that men and boys can only talk about their issues in a feminist context should be starkly obvious by now. Feminists are incapable of recognizing the victimization of boys and men in an honest way, Adele being a prime example of that. Reframing the sexual victimization of underage boys by adult female staff in a detention facility as not problematic or not rape. Feminists are more invested in explaining away the victimization of men and boys than they are bringing awareness to it and funding services for it. And when I say feminists are incapable of recognizing the victimization of men and boys in an honest way, I mean men and boys full stop. Not qualifiers on men and boys like disabled boys and men, or poor boys and men, or minority boys and men. I mean boys and men full stop. The problems of boys and men, full stop. No qualification. A woman saying that sexually abused boys in cages gave legitimate consent to their attackers is more welcome in feminism than a woman saying that men and boys can be abuse victims. And that is a fucking problem. Feminism fails to produce an immune response to people like Adele Mercier. I guarantee she will experience no fallout, no censure, and no disciplinary action for asserting that boys can give legitimate consent to the adult females in detention centers who have complete control over every aspect of their lives and are also adult. Can you imagine what would happen if Adele was Adam Mercier, professor of philosophy at Queen's University, and Professor Adam Mercier publicly said that underage girls can give meaningful consent to their adult male teachers, not even captors, teachers? What do you think would happen to Adam Mercier for even suggesting that? He would lose his job at a bare minimum. All across Canada, feminist protesters would erupt into Lolita walks, protesting his victim blaming, and we would have even more "Don't Be That Guy" campaigns to combat the epidemic of rape culture on university campuses, perpetrated by professors at this point. But because it wasn't Adam Mercier, and because it wasn't blaming underage girls for being sexually abused by men, it was blaming underage boys for being sexually abused by women, nothing will happen. And that, friends, is exactly why Janice Fiamengo is correct when she says feminist double standards make feminists the wrong people to look to talk about issues facing men and boys. Feminism fails to produce an immune response to Mercier. An immune response would be, for example, the reaction of the crowd to Dr. Fiamengo instead.
It's my hope that as a result of my talk, a few of you may decide to, okay, you know, it's the signature of a totalitarian ideology to attempt to quash dissent.
That would be an immune response. You notice that it failed to happen to Adele Mercier, and will fail to happen in the coming weeks and months.
I am a feminist. Woo!
It's a signature of a totalitarian ideology to attempt to quash dissent.
I am a feminist. Woo!
They will eject Janice Fiamengo for suggesting that boys and men have issues and require attention, but they won't reject Adele Mercier for saying that abused boys can give legitimate consent to their adult abusers, their adult female abusers. Feminism fails to produce an immune response to Mercier. Hell, our institutions of learning and our government fail to produce an immune response. And all the people like her, because feminism does not care about men and boys. And our government does not care about men and boys. And our institutions of learning do not care about men and boys. Feminists want to control the discourse on issues faced by men and boys simply so they can strangle them in the crib. Oh no, Adele won't receive any sort of official reprisal. Not from feminism, not from the academic institution that she's employed at. In fact, I have a proposal for the Canadian government. Instead of disciplining Adele for her rape apologia, she should be rewarded. Currently, the Canadian government is funding the White Ribbon Campaign, a feminist or a feminist-friendly campaign. They are giving them $600,000 to go into schools and tell boys to take responsibility for violence against women and girls. $600,000. $600,000 to tell boys that they are the problem when it comes to violence. $600,000 that could have gone to mental health services to address abuse that is at the root of violent behavior. But that would be admitting that boys can be victims, and we can't have that. But why stop with making boys responsible for violence against women? Since Adele Mercier has demonstrated such a keen grasp of avoiding recognizing boys as victims, perhaps the White Ribbon Campaign could partner with her and have her go into schools and teach your son how he is responsible for misconduct when he is statutorily raped by his female teachers. Seems like something the government of Canada could really get behind. And Adele certainly has a lot to say on that particular issue.